Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. It's another day, it's another failure, and it's another attempt by the SNP to blame Westminster. Because why not? It's much easier to blame them than to look to where the real problem is, which of course is the SNP. This particular failure is all about education. We've already seen how 1,200 domestic places have been cut from university establishments because they can't afford them. There's the spiralling, plummeting failure of education at the lower levels with reduced attainment levels, with results singularly failing, and with an absolute drop massively in world rankings of Scottish education from being one of the best to being on a par with some third world countries. And this has all happened on the SNP's watch. For 17 years, they have been in control of education, and it is on their watch that this has spiralled down the plug hole of academic insolence and the terrifying thought that entire generations are now being deprived of any kind of future thanks to a flawed education system. And of course they blame Westminster. But let's have a look, because we know it truly isn't. Here goes. So the Nats never learn. And unfortunately, because of their policies, neither do a lot of pupils in Scotland, unfortunately. But now the Scottish students are paying the price for their catastrophic failure. It's been an entire generation now. 17 years. Entire generation educated under the SNP and coming out betrayed and having had their futures removed because their education system is so appallingly bad that they go out into a world marketplace ill-suited, ill-educated, ill-qualified and let down by these people who don't care. Their only obsession is independence, not anything to do with benefiting people. Megan Gallagher says the swinging cut in university places for Scottish students, as well as the dire collapse in school standards, is all down to the SNP. But true to form, the Nats are now trying to blame Westminster because of course they will never blame themselves for their own failings. Look at that face. That is one vicious, angry, hatchet-faced woman. Presumably she's been told that it's all her fault and she won't accept it. Imagine that thing lunging at you. It's like a vicious weasel, isn't it? We all know that the SNP never learn. The problem is that while they're in government, no one else gets much of a chance to either. Hey, I just said that. Two ministers, the Finance Secretary Shona Robertson and the Education Secretary Jenny Gilruth, both admitted last week that there will be a cut of at least 1,200 places for Scottish students at their own universities, failing the very best of Scotland. You need educated people. In a society, you need entrepreneurs, you need engineers, you need scientists, you need people who know what they're doing. And you're not providing that education. That is a failure. The news for the college sector is even worse, with savage cuts meaning that at least 4 are now at the risk of going bankrupt. Colleges going bankrupt because the SNP would rather spend money on brochures and independence than on educating children. When Alex Salmond was First Minister, he proudly declared that the rocks will melt with the sun before I allow tuition fees for Scottish students. And he's kept his word by just not having any Scottish students. Therefore, there's no tuition fees. The SNP's financial incompetence, which has led to last month's disastrous tax and axe budget, now means that many Scots don't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting into the most popular courses, no matter how good their exam results are. The Nats love to boast about the lack of tuition fees, but like so many of their promises, they haven't delivered. And they can't. Not while they're constantly going on and harping on about independence and wasting millions upon millions of pounds on an unachievable goal that the majority of Scots don't want. They have undermined and underfunded the university sector, and it means that leading institutions now rely on fees from overseas students, and there is an effective cap that makes it harder for Scots applicants. So it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to university because Johnny Foreigner has had to have the place because they pay in full. Your own government makes these claims that every Scot will be educated for free and then fails to deliver because every Scot will be educated for free until we run out of other people's money. This matters because every cut in student numbers risks storing up future workforce problems for the Scottish economy and the public services. We've seen the damage the SNP cap on medical students did to NHS recruitment. A host of other sectors will be hit if young Scots are forced to leave the country to study. They'll come to England, they'll study in England, they'll stay in England. And that is a lot of education wasted for Scotland, and then nobody wants to work there because the economy's collapsing, because all the brightest and best are moving out. And then once they see the tax difference, when they go, oh, I could go back to Scotland. Oh, wait, look how much money it's going to cost me. No thanks. And this massive brain drain is going to happen. And that damages a country. You lose that intelligence. You lose the inventors, the engineers, the entrepreneurs. You lose the people that can grow an economy. But of course, being very, very stupid, Shona Robertson doesn't see that. Being very, very stupid, none of them see that. And so they push ahead with these mindless, damaging, almost, you can't, I would say almost criminal policies for the damage they're doing to the people and economy of Scotland. Jenny Gilruth's slip of the tongue when she referred to the UK Education Secretary as her opponent was a clear indication that manufacturing differences and grievances against Westminster is much higher up the list of priorities than delivering Scottish education. They literally look at the Westminster government as their enemies. And that, of course, creates major problems. They hate the Westminster government, they hate the English, they hate everything. And yet they know, and it burns them to the very core, that they're reliant upon that money. And they know full well that if there was independence tomorrow, they'd be finished. There'd be finished. There'd be no Barnett formula. There'd be no going to Westminster when things go wrong. You're on your own. And you don't have the ability to educate your own pupils. Everyone who can will leave. The economy will crash and burn. And these people know it, but they're still going to push ahead because policy and ideology trumps common sense and intelligence every time with the SNP. And that's for those of them who've got an IQ high enough to recognise it. The likes of Shona, of course, doesn't. They give her some Lego. When she's not out there going, hello, with that face on, the face of, I don't know where I am, then they just put her in the office, give her some Lego to play with, some colouring books, but obviously not the purple crayons. She eats them. As First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon claimed in 2015 that education was her priority and that she wanted to be judged on it. Well, let's judge her then. Fail. F. See me. The judgment isn't kind. The attainment gap between richer and poorer pupils has widened under the SNP. But that's because the richer pupils, their parents see how bad the education system is and go, no, and put them into private education or send them south or do something to get them a better education. They know how bad education in Scotland is becoming. The most recent international comparison tables also show dire results, and we know, we've done the video on that. And some of these results are worse than some third world countries. Scotland's supposed to be a Western modern democracy, pumping money into education systems, supposedly the best education you can buy. And now, third world. Because SNP. Scotland had the best results of the UK nations 20 years ago, but now pupils are up to a full year behind students in England on basics like reading, maths and science. One leading education specialist described it as catastrophic. Others have resigned over the SNP's policies. The Nationalists are spending more money in order to get much worse results, but Jenny Gilruth's automatic reaction is to blame Westminster, rather than accept the SNP's policies have failed. There's a basic principle that if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're bound to repeat them. It's a lesson the SNP still haven't learnt. And they're not likely to. They're not very bright. And when you've got a woman like Shona Robinson in charge of the economy and that hatchet-faced virago leading Scotland's education system, is it any wonder the schools are failing and your children and grandchildren's future is being eradicated for ideological reasons? I'm coming up. The problem with their policies are they haven't just failed now. They haven't just failed in the past. This failure will continue because every child currently at school is currently being handicapped in education by these policies. And that means there's going to be yet another generation growing up and going through schooling. Even if it changed now, there's so many that have gone through whatever many years of education so far, that will never be fixable for them. It will end up being at least 2 generations of children whose education system has let them down so badly that they will be permanently harmed for their entire life by these incalculably evil people that call themselves the SNP, because they know full well what they're doing. But an uneducated population is actually their end goal. They don't want people clever enough to question them. A nice, docile, stupid population who just put where they're placed, stay there, do as they're told, given their tasks, and go about their daily chores with a little pat on the head and told how wonderful they are. And look what a wonderful place an independent Scotland is. Like the people of Albania under Enver Hoxha, isn't it? Anyway, I shall stop. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later.